Hey there, folks. So I just want to make a quick little educational video. I will not be editing it. Thank you for asking. Where I just want to, quickly talk about this thing that I've noticed that happens. So y'all may have seen that Tucker Carlson recently did a segment about immigration where he said that the country over the last 10 years, I think it was, he said, has grown by 100 million, and that's thanks to illegal immigration. 100 million. Um, so the country, I think, according to most estimates, has like between 320 and 330 ish, maybe 335 million ish people in it. And so it's sort of unclear whether he's saying there's actually over 400 million people in the country, or somewhere in between 330 million and 430 million people are in the country, and you just didn't notice. Um, who knows? Who the fuck knows what he's actually saying? And that's kind of an interesting part of the point that I want to get at, which is that who knows what he's saying? He just kind of throws these things out there, these numbers. He doesn't tell you where he gets them. He just kind of says, he just proclaims that they're true, which is something that people like me can do. People who have YouTube channels with 0 subscribers, we can do that because it doesn't matter. I'm not on Fox News, which, not to say that Fox News is particularly scrupulous, but it's it's in the ballpark of as scrupulous as other media channels that are popular. I would say well, I wouldn't even say that, but I will say it's a media channel. I'll give it that much. Fox News, media channel. They did it. But this is kind of concerning. And he goes on to say about these 100 million illegals, as he calls them, folks that they commit a misdemeanor offense and they are illegal for life. Unlike you or I, who have never, for example, sped 5+ miles over the speed limit in our whole lives. That's there's a difference between a misdemeanor that we commit. Us people. It's, a wink and a nod about what makes us different from the people that Tucker Carlson calls illegals. They're responsible for this, consumerist. He said, these malls popping up and taking nature away from us. Oh, these illegals taking nature with their strip malls. Which is kind of, you have to laugh at it because it's so crazy, but you laugh at it and then you think, oh, Tucker Carlson is the most watched show on cable news in the country right now. So then the laughter turns quickly to sort of this morose, detached questioning about the state of the world, that could even be the case. And you have people like Tucker Carlson, and then also Judge Jeanine Pirro, who said that immigrants were, she wasn't going to be silenced about saying on her Fox News television show, that is her show, the Judge Jeanine Pirro show that she has on one of the biggest, if not the biggest, cable news network in the country or the world. She's outraged that she won't be silenced anymore, and stopped from saying that immigrants are dirty and they're the reason that coronavirus is spreading in Texas, where the governor just lifted all restrictions and mask mandates. That couldn't have anything to do with it. It's definitely the illegal immigrants because of how dirty and gross that she finds them to be. And probably her audience does too. Again, you gotta wonder what's going on there. So there's this thing that people who are kind of smart or at least like mildly aware of what's going on in the world will say, which is that Fox News and sort of more broadly the American right wing is kind of verging into some Nazi stuff. It's kind of, if at the very least, kind of dabbling in this whole the other gross immigrants are ruining our culture, and also the postmodern liberal college educated class is, also ruining our culture, and the elites, let's Tucker Carlson, heir to the Swanson frozen food multi-billion-dollar fortune, likes to say, the elites are ruining the culture, which Tucker Carlson's not an elite, of course. He's one of us, folks. They like to say all these things that, sound eerily similar to sort of Nazi rhetoric. But, you point that out, and he'll run a segment saying, well, what is white supremacy really? I mean, what is that? I don't know what that is. Or segments where he says, we Googled QAnon and we couldn't figure out who that was. So it's like, what are people talking about? It's probably not even real. Probably fake news. So that's, at one time, you catch a right winger who likes him some Tucky Tum-Tums. He'll say that to you. He'll say, it's kind of absurd that you would compare him to Nazis. Like, he doesn't talk about the Jews. So, he doesn't use the K word. So he's probably not a Nazi. You have Glenn Greenwald, who's, kind of going crazy lately, who calls Tucker Carlson a socialist, which is absurd, of course. But, like, he does, he explains it in that he's sort of like a conservative populist. So, he might be economically, he might spout some economic rhetoric that is maybe a little bit more aligned with socialism than your typical sort of austerity hawk neoliberal. But, he's a nationalist. So, you marry the concepts of nationalist and socialist. And again, I'm not even going to take the time to drag out that segment of the video. National socialism is what Nazism was, and there was nothing particularly socialist about the actual end product of it, but whatever. So there's sort of that component where right-wingers will say it's absurd to say just because Nazis like Tucker Carlson means that he, is responsible for spouting Nazi rhetoric. And, in isolation, there might be some merit to that. I think it shows incredible lack of critical thinking skills, to say the least. A poverty of maybe intelligence going on. Certainly a poverty of critical thinking about the issue. But hey, in isolation, it is a tenable position to take without yourself running cover for Nazis. Okay? I'll say that. But then there's this other thing that the very same people will do, which is they will find the most sort of obscure, like academic theories, like critical race theory, which they'll never say what it is. They'll just sort of say the name of the theory and then follow that up with a bunch of unrelated kooks being crazy. I guess there's the Robin DiAngelo stuff, which is gross. I think everybody can kind of agree that Robin DiAngelo's shtick is, to make more money off of liberal white guilt. I think everybody who's not a white guilt experiencing liberal can kind of agree that that's probably what's going on there. But this fear-mongering recently about the 1619 Project and lying about what it says, and just sort of aversion to any sort of critical consumption of that. These more left-leaning extremes, maybe. I don't even think the 1619 Project is that extreme, but it's certainly not the mainstream position among left. Among the American left, at least. But they'll say, this is representative of the liberals, of the Democrat Party, which, includes people like Joe Biden, who was against busing and happens to also be the president, was friends with Strom Thurmond and gave a eulogy at his funeral. Joe Manchin, these other sort of goons and goblins that exist in the Democrat Party, that hold actually a significant amount of power. The point that I'm trying to make is people who defend Tucker Carlson and his ilk, Ben Shapiro kind of falls in the same category, from charges that, they're really like doing some kind of gross, Nazi adjacent, if not just kind of dabbling in Nazi propaganda stuff. They'll say that, it's absurd to claim that they should be defined by the most extreme views of the people that like them, but they'll turn around and say, well, the New York Times should be discredited as a far left institution because they published the 1619 Project. Well, people like David Brooks write for the New York Times, not exactly a far left guy, and he's been writing for it a lot longer than the 1619 Project has been around. The New York Times is not a left-leaning institution. Who do they endorse for president? They endorse it, like, the woman who's reading this or something. Like, just the ladies out there in the Democratic Party. They're like, if you're a lady, if you're a lass, we want you to be the president. That's our position. Not particularly super left stuff. Not really, principled left-leaning position at all. But these people who will say, when Tucker Carlson says that immigrants are dirty and responsible for everything that's bad with the country, when they say that, that's, come on, it's kind of true, isn't it? Is what these people will say. I don't think it is kind of true. I don't think it at all. Of course, yeah, is there a problem with illegal immigration? Sure, but I mean, it's like a manufactured problem, right? We decide what type of immigration is legal and illegal. So if you wanted there to be zero illegal immigration, there's an easy solution for that. But I get it, things are more complicated than that. However, it is sort of a manufactured crisis. We decide what is legal and illegal in terms of immigration. And a lot of these people are fleeing problems that we kind of create with our both domestic and foreign policy. I'm not going to trick you into reading anything because I know that people are averse to that. But, if you wanted to, you could just look up American interventions in Latin America. It's a lot of pretty bad stuff going on there, right up to and including Obama and Trump presidencies. Pretty outstanding, the legacy of American Monroe Doctrine, Western hemispheric imperialism. Seems to just keep on chugging right along. Very resilient, that Monroe Doctrine. But yeah, so there's not much more to say. These folks, these hooligans, I'll call them, on the right, who will on the one hand say, we shouldn't be defined by our most extreme adherence, blah 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 blah, yada yada yada. Even though we kind of go out our way to say all the stuff that they really like. But the people on the MSNBC should be considered some radical Marxist post-structuralist institution because they had Bernie Sanders on one time or whatever it was. They have people like Al Sharpton on, avowed communist Al Sharpton, Stalinist communist Al Sharpton on their program. It's kind of silly, and what it really amounts to is just running interference for Nazis and white nationalists and people, all sorts of gross sort of far right ghouls and demons. So maybe if you watch this far into the video and you think, hey, he's talking about me, I do that stuff. Well, just consider stop doing that. You don't have to do that. You can stop. You can change. Maybe stay away from Twitter for a couple of months to years while you're doing some thinking, doing a real long think. But yeah, that's all I really wanted to say. These people are sort of obvious goons and ghouls. All of them. I think, everybody on cable news is sort of a demon in human skin. Not really, maybe I shouldn't joke like that since I'm talking about people who believe similar things. But I am joking. I think that they're just gross corporatist hacks who are just sort of out to make the most money that they can. without adhering to any particular principle. And that's obvious. So, leave me a comment telling me what your favorite cereal brand is. And I will be sure to think long and hard about that. See you later.